What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Listography. Jason, Joe, and Crams are here. Coldplay week. Side 3, what else could it be but bands that have disappointed us, let us down, bands with unfavorable trajectories. That's what we're talking about today. Clearly, Cram had his heart broken by Coldplay, and I would think it's fair to say that Joe and I have been at least mildly disappointed as well. So we're going to talk about some more bands that have kind of gone in a direction that we haven't cared for.
We are in this together. Want me to start? I'll start. I'm going to start it up. A band that we talked about a little bit during the Coldplay album review because Chris Martin wants Coldplay to be them so bad. I'm going to go with U2 for a band that, for me, kind of dominated the 80s and then had a masterpiece in 1991. Since then, 30 years ago, not really a big fan of their sound. Granted, there are a couple little select pieces that I do enjoy, but there's no doubt that there is a distinct just, oh my God, so good. And then, oh God. And it also kind of plays into my problem with Coldplay is just that image of self-righteous prophet of the global community that Bono has, that Chris Martin wants. And it kind of worse and worse. And good Lord, did the Edge look unmatched in that room with Jimmy Page when they were like playing guitar with one another? I was just like, Edge, I love you, buddy, but you got to know your place a little bit here. Yeah, I think U2 really fell off the map. Although I don't hate them as much as everyone, I just think their early stuff is so good and they just went a direction and a sound I don't care for at all. Here's another one. I've got Band of Horses, who, when I listened to their debut in 2006, I was so into it. I thought it was a really cool, refreshing sound without being too indie or experimental. I mean, they were just writing good pop rock tunes with like this really crystal clear, beautiful kind of country edge. Next album I also thought was very good. And then after that, it's really sad because they didn't really change much. They just got bad at it. Like none of their stuff after that was like any good. So their trajectory just went, quality just dipped. Like they just shot their load really early. I saw them live. They were not very good live. So like now they release an album, I'm like not even interested. Like I am just completely like it's just not going to happen for me with them anymore. Similar vein, I'm going to go with Arcade Fire. The first 3 albums are some of my 3 favorite albums of all time. All 5-star classics, all 3 of them, and they don't touch 3 stars after that. I do not understand this sort of like pseudo disco upbeat thing. Like they changed a lot of their instruments. They went more kind of synth sounding, like the bass is heavier. I want the young, kind of, impressionable, aggressive, youthful spirit that they had. And now it's just like they're like 70s dad rock light. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, I'm not feeling it. And they slip a little off my mind to the point where like if I wasn't on this channel, if I wasn't making lists in 30 years, I might completely forget they exist because I need them to have a really good album soon. It's killing me. Also going to throw that same sort of critique toward My Morning Jacket. I haven't loved a My Morning Jacket album in a long time. I really hate their direction. I know me and Jason or Joe are at odds on this one, but they got kind of goofy and silly and going with more obvious 70s references rather than going with that big, alt country sound with a lot of jamming and a lot of hollowness and a lot of reverb and a lot of space. And now they're kind of trying to be cute and fun and smarmy a little bit at times and not digging it. And then finally, I'll go with a band that broke my heart because they simply just quit. They just stopped making music, and that's going to be Stella Star. Loved them when I first got their CD in 2003, their debut. Thought it was really cool that I felt like I was the first one to really know about them. They weren't really popular. Got their CD, showed it to a lot of friends. People were into it. Waited their new one in 2005. Thought it was great. They came out with another one in '09, which was okay, and then just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. Don't make music anymore. I was really into their sound, really into their albums, and now there's like no way I'm going to see him live. No new music. Hardly anyone I can talk to about Stella Star. So if you like Stella Star, those albums in the comments, let me know. We can talk about it a little bit. So yeah, that really sucked. Just it was like making a new friend back in third grade and coming in one day and just being like, "Where the hell is he? Oh, he moved. Okay, well, we got no way of ever seeing that guy again." And that's how me and Stella Star were, and it sucked.
Um, First one's almost too easy, kind of like shooting fish in a barrel, but I'm gonna go with Weezer. I think the first two records are just power pop masterpieces. I think Green Album and Maladroit are pretty good, but after that, man, it's rough sailing. Not so good. Very good songs are few and far between after that. And then I'll go with some more recent things that have kind of let me down. And Joe and I have talked about this artist a little bit, but I've got Sturgill Simpson. I was so pumped to discover Metamodern Sounds in country music, which was his second album. I thought it was so good. And then for him to immediately after that switch lanes on A Sailor's Guide to like the more R&B leaning sound with the horns and stuff. I just wasn't into that sound, and I didn't think it really fit his voice that well. That record never connected with me. And then he did like that ZZ Top sounding record recently, which I thought was ridiculous and not very good. So and then he did the bluegrass stuff, and it's just like I don't know what he's doing. I just want Metamodern Sounds over and over again, honestly. Um, then I'll say Night Beds, whose 2013 album is one of my favorite of that decade. I absolutely love that record. He admittedly sounds a lot like Ryan Adams on that record. The record after that, he starts trying to sound like Bon Iver, and he was just much better at sounding like Ryan Adams than he is at Bon Iver. It wasn't a very good record, and the lyrics on that record got really bad too. And he hasn't done much since then. I think there was maybe an EP or something, but it's been pretty quiet on that front. Also going to go with Margaret Glaspie, whose debut record in 2016, Emotions and Math, also one of my favorite of the decade. Absolutely love it. Love her songwriting, love her voice. But her second record, Devotion, I felt like the production was just trying way too hard. Doesn't need to be that clever. Just you're a good songwriter. Just write the good songs and your voice is great. But she's just trying to do too much on that second record. Hopefully she gets back on track on the third record. I still have hope there. Last one I'll say is maybe a little bit of a cheat, but I'm going to say the Frames / Glenn Hansard. I think since Glenn Hansard has left the Frames, it's just not quite been the same. And the shame of it really is that at least internationally and here in the US, he got so big and so well known after the Frames with the Swell season and the movie once and his solo records. And I just feel like there's no incentive for him to ever go back to the Frames now because he makes so much more money as a solo artist. But man, the Frames were great.
That's a good one. I got to second that opinion. I get really annoyed when people are talking to me about Glenn Hansard, and I'm like, he's not nearly as good as the Frames. And they're like, who? And I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like, so much better.
I always hated when you guys talked about the Frames. Really don't like them at all. Thought they were really lame. My list. I've been let down a lot. I've been hurt many times in my musical listening career. We'll go back to one that really stands out in my memory because I really liked this band early on. That is Our Lady Peace. And they were kind of a funky alternative band from Canada. They're a little different, a little strange. Loved Rainer Maida's voice. And then they made Gravity. They went like super, like he changed his voice to make it sort of like normal. And they wrote songs about, like pink haired girls or whatever it was. Hated it. Thought that whole album sucked. I haven't really listened to them at all since. I'm just assuming they still suck. But they did make my top 5 back in the day. So at one time, they were one of my favorite bands. Also, my list, I got a band. I don't think most people have even heard of them, but Highly Suspect came. They had an album out in 2015, I think. Really great, like hard charging, like dirty, grimy, just rock and roll. Really cool guitar sounds. Really dark and like depressing, and just like a good like new voice in rock. And like every album after, it's just been big disappointment. Their latest one had like some rap elements to it, and it's just like, I thought you were great at one point, but just really bad trajectory for them, and I don't care about them at all anymore. Let's see. We'll also do Hot Hot Heat. Love their album, Make Up the Breakdown. Came out in 2001 or 2002. And just like a really funky, really catchy, like indie pop rock, whatever you want to call it. Next album kind of smoothed them out into sort of like kind of annoying, like radio friendly alt rock. And then I kind of lost track of them. I listened to their self-titled, which came out in I think 2016. I don't know, when we were doing our albums of the year series. And it just sucks. Like it is just really bad, boring. Like at least be interesting. And they're just like everything cool and unique about them is just right out the window. So that is for, there's a couple others, like even like the Killers, not crazy about what they've done since the beginning. The Vines, I thought had a lot of promise when they first started out. Big disappointment. But we'll do one that I really like, their first album, Temples. Had like a really cool like 60s psych kind of thing. And then ever since they've had 2 albums, and they're not bad, but like the promise that was shown on Sun Structures, just they never lived up to it. Like everything kind of was more boring. They didn't have like a new sound to go to, so everything kind of seemed like a recycled, less interesting version of their first album. And I don't hate them. Like I give them their last one like 3.5 stars, but it's just not that interesting. I really sort of was into them, and then at this point, after 2 albums of mediocre, it's just like I don't care anymore. Like I'm not looking forward to your new album. I don't follow, what they're doing, and that always sucks when like there's that band that starts out with like a great album. You're like, oh yes, like this could be my new band, and then by the time the next 2 roll around, you just don't even think about it. I don't even think about you at all anymore.
I got one I think we would all agree on, that if they announced they were releasing one tomorrow, we would be in no rush to listen to, and that would be Live, who the first few albums are so good, and then it's just they got so corny and like pseudo Christian rock, and just like, oh my god, like it's really bad now. Or the last few albums they did were really bad.
That's a really good one.
I thought of that as soon as Joe said Our Lady Peace.
That's what brought it up for me too. I was like, oh god. Like there's a few grunge acts I think could almost fall in that, but like none of it get nearly as bad as Live. Like I think Collective Soul's path was decent, even though they got kind of corny and pop rocket. That's nowhere near like as bad as where Live was. And I don't think Collective Soul was ever as good as I thought. Like I really love Throwing Copper and Secret Samaria and like all that stuff. But then songs from Black Mountain or whatever, Birds of Prey.
All right. So let us know what you think of the bands that have let us down. Are any of those bands that you still enjoy and follow? And let us know which bands have let you down over the years and gone in a direction that you weren't super psyched about. And, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Head on over to our website. You can find links to all that stuff down in the description. And we will see you for 1975 tomorrow. Thanks for watching.